You do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego. Not hearing me, you will be lost. So I'll read a purport or commentary by our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort, and he gives himself to his friend, who's so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. So, the existence of God or a supreme being cannot be denied. We can just use logic that we have parents and they have parents. So that would be your grandparents. And they have parents. And they have parents. So now if you go back 3 or 4 generations, there's no pictures of those great grandfather or grandmother. There's no picture. There's no drawing. They would have come from India because your original ancestors were living in India somewhere. So you go back to the original father. So the original father is God. He's the original father. And then you may say, well, what about his father? But he has no father. He is causeless. Causeless means he has no cause. You are not causeless. You were created or manifest by your father and mother coming together, having union, and then you were born from the womb of your mother. But the original father is God. And he's a person. Even in the Bible, there is that simple statement, God made man in his own image. So it is not that we have 2 hands and 2 legs and we superimpose the idea that God must also be a human. It's around the other way. God is the original and he has 2 hands and 2 legs. But he is spiritual. And spiritual means he's eternal. Now, our bodies, Indian or European or whatever it is, black Africans or colored, our bodies are not eternal. It would be very nice if our bodies were eternal. For a start, we wouldn't grow old. And growing old is not very nice. Would you agree with me? It's not nice growing old. And with old age comes disease. And there are too many diseases. And they're coming up with new ones. And COVID is an example. We never thought about it, and suddenly it hits us. COVID. So new diseases coming all the time. And not just the body, not just this body, but the mind also. And we're getting mental diseases. Is it not? Stress, post-stress, trauma, anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsory disorders. There's too many disorders. So many. So it's not just the body, it is also the mind. And then when the mind is disrupted, it affects the body, isn't it? I'll give you one example. Road rage. Someone cuts in front of you, or they give you a nasty sign. So first of all, in your mind, you become angry, isn't it? The mind. But then it manifests in the body. So first anger in the mind, and then your heart rate goes up. Isn't it? BP, blood pressure goes up. And then your mouth becomes dry. And then you clench your fists. And then you tighten your mouth. And then your eyes become a little red, isn't it? A little bit red, you know. And then short breath. Short breath, because you're angry. So originally it starts in the mind, but then that affects the body. So these are all tribulations and difficulties that we have to deal with living in this material world. Living in this material world means living in South Africa for us. And there are so many challenges in this country. But wherever you go, there's challenges. There's so many challenges. Some very nice Vaishnavas, they decided to go on a holiday. So they thought, all right, we'll fly through Dubai. They flow through Dubai, and there's flooding everywhere. Everywhere. Ending up staying in the airport for hours and hours. And unexpected tribulations. Family members don't cooperate. The wife hits the husband, gives him a good smack. You're good what for? Should go and get a job. I want new house in Umhlanga. And must have 180-degree view of the sea. I heard about that recently. So family members sometimes demanding money, demanding this, even taking you to court. And then we have the Adipoltic, Adhyatmic, threefold miseries. Adhyatmic means miseries due to your body and mind. And we just discussed that. The body will give you misery, it'll give you pain, and the mind will also disturb you. That's Adhyatmic. Adipoltic means other living entities. You're peacefully sitting in your house, but someone comes to bother you. It can be the tax man. I want SAS. It's increased. You have to give more tax. Or man's most deadly enemy. And what is man's most, and women's most deadly enemy? What is it? The mosquito. Little small thing you can hardly see. A mosquito. But approximately 2,000 people die every day from malaria. And it's mostly in Africa. But it's mostly young children. So mosquito comes and bothers you, SARS comes and bothers you, next door neighbors, or there is some riot, and we know about that a few years ago, some riots. And they're going on in other countries, but we're talking about South Africa. And then it gets too hot. Today was a hot day, am I correct? And then it gets a bit too cold. But we're not too bad off for weather in South Africa. If you go to Siberia, then you really know what is cold. Minus 40, minus 45, minus now, centigrade. And in Vrindavan, in India, North India, it can be plus 50 degrees centigrade. But South Africa, where the conditions are much more reasonable, but we have other problems, floods, it rains too much, and the house gets washed away. As I was driving here, we went over a bridge, and then I suddenly remembered years ago, I was doing the tent campaign. So this is like almost 40 years ago. They had rain, flooding, and two policemen, I think they were policemen, they were from Velum, and they came to look at the bridge to see whether it was safe. And as they were looking at the bridge collapsed. Remember that? I think 1987, yeah, I remember, yeah. And then they got washed away, actually, and they died. I was doing the tent campaign then, and I remember we used to go down to the river together. This is before the floods, and we used to chant on the bank of the Tegela River in Stanger, Tegela Rail. But then 1 month later, it was flooding, so we missed the flood. So this is Adi Baltic, miseries due to other living beings. One country declares war, and that's what's happening now in different parts of the world. One country declares war. And you may be the citizens, but it's usually the citizens that end up getting attacked or deprived of food, stuff like this. So Adhyatmic, miseries due to the body and mind. Adi-Baltic, miseries due to other living beings. And then Adi-Devic, or Adi-Devic means devas. So there's many devas, like Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, devas, and they're demigods. So this actually means the environment. It means it rains too much or it's too hot. So they say now that the climate is getting hotter and hotter, and it's raining in deserts. So this is Adi-Devic. And we don't have any control. Do you have any control over an earthquake? All they do is they say, well, this house now is earthquake proof. But I never heard of a house as earthquake proof. Yeah. So earthquakes come, and droughts come, lack of food. So these miseries affect everyone. So one can minimize these miseries by thinking of God. As soon as you think of the Lord, your mind becomes more peaceful. And the more you can think of the Lord, the more peaceful the mind actually becomes. So the uncontrolled mind is our worst enemy. But the mind, when it's controlled, becomes your friend. The uncontrolled mind, I gave the example road rage. The uncontrolled mind, that's anger. It's the mind, it's bothering the mind. Then you do something you regret. So the uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. But when the mind is controlled, it becomes your best friend. And the way you're able to control the mind is by thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now to think of God, it's called smaranam, remembrance. It's not so easy. It's not so easy. We can think of our wife and husband and football team, and shortly coming as the Olympics, we can think of the Olympics. But to think of God is not such an easy thing. Therefore, in this Kali Yuga, the age of materialism, a very easy process has been given, and that is simply to chant the names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Simply we chant the names of God. Kali Nasanam, the destroyer of the effects of Kali, to chant the name of God. And we see in every religion, this is stressed, chanting the name of God. In Islam, Christianity, praise the Lord. And of course in the Vedic culture, chanting the name of God. And it's so easy to do. And the names of God are full of spiritual Shakti, Nija Shakti. Shakti means power. They're very powerful, the names of God. So we chant the names of God. You can do it in your privacy, in your room, in your bedroom. You can do it anywhere. There's no hard and fast rule. You don't have to be a swami or a guru or lady or man. It makes no difference. Anyone can chant the name of God. There's no rules. There's no hard and fast rules. So it is recommended by Lord Chaitanya, Harinama, Harinama, Harinameva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva 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 Kataranyata. Chant the name of God always. And in this particular verse is mentioned to emphasize 3 times. To make a point. If I ask you now, stand up, you may think, well, he's not talking to me. But if I say, stand up, then you begin to think, well, maybe he is talking to me. But if I say it 3 times, stand up, stand up, stand up, I think the point is getting through. So in the Vedic scriptures, many times instructions are repeated. There's a logic, and the logic is when you hit a post into the ground, you hit it again and again and again. Therefore, you'll find in Bhagavad Gita it's repeated many times. Krishna says, Mamano Bhavamag Bhakto, think of me, worship me, chant my name. So we recommend that you try this chanting, and you try it every day, not just on Janmashtami or Ram Navami or some auspicious day or Sunday. Actually, chanting should be done every day. And it cleans the heart. The heart is like a mirror, but that mirror is covered by dust. And as you chant, you're cleaning the heart. We're very particular when we get up early in the morning. We clean our teeth. Isn't it? Everyone has a toothbrush. Probably you have 2 or 3. You have your toothpaste. You clean your mouth. Every day we must take a bath, at least once, but probably twice. But when it gets very hot like this, sometimes 3 times. So we clean the body, we clean the hair. What about cleaning the heart? It's not so easy, but it's done through chanting the name of God. Therefore it is recommended. Chant the name. Harinama, Harinama, Harinameva Kevalam. So we chant. And anyone can do this. But only human being. You don't get dogs chanting. Cats, fish, sardines. You know, when the sardine shells come and they run down there to catch them. The sardines don't go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So you've got to be a human being because we're endowed with superior intelligence. We have superior intelligence. Dog also has some intelligence, but it's limited. It's very good at sniffing. It has a more acute sense of smell than you or me. The eagle. It has very keen eyesight. The eagle. These birds of prey. And they float on these air thermals, like sometimes 1/2 kilometer in the sky. And they have small little eyes, but they can see the dead body. The vulture, they can see a small dead body, and they come down, they eat it. We have much bigger eyes. Our eyesight is not so developed. Our hearing is not so developed. Our sense of taste is not so developed. A shark can taste, smell 1 part of blood in 1,000,000 parts of water. It's very keen sense of smell. Even a fly, you get a dead body, the flies come because they can smell. Our sense of smell is not so keen, but we have developed intelligence. And we can ask the question, where did I come from? What happens when I die? What is the purpose in life? What is this creation? Sea tights, Durban, South Africa, who created it? Is there a creator? Is he a person? Can I have a relationship with him? Why do I have to die? I don't want to. I don't want to die. I take all the medicine, but still I am to die. So the human being is rational. He or she can ask these questions, and we should. But most human beings don't bother. They're more interested in politics or sport or entertainment. Like now is Friday night, so it's time for Suncoast. It's not far away. Or Sabaya. It's just up the road. Or get drunk. So most human beings, they go in that direction. Very few, manusyanam sahasrasu, out of thousands, out of millions, one may question. So that's all of you. You're questioning. And this is good. This is a characteristic of an intelligent human being. So we're encouraging you, take it further. And read Bhagavad Gita. Read these books, Srimad Bhagavatam, that explain in a very logical, systematic, philosophical way the existence of God and our purpose as human beings. They explain in a very logical way that will convince our intelligence. Another name of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means to link with God, to connect. And Bhakti means through devotion. So we're practicing devotion to God. But another name in the Bhagavad Gita is Buddhi Yoga. And Buddhi means intelligence. Buddhi. So it's the yoga of intelligence. So we strongly advocate, use your intelligence to understand the nature of this body, the nature of the soul, the nature of God. God is a person, and you can have a personal relationship with him. But he's the supreme person. The relationship you have with your parents, your dear wife or husband or children, it's temporary. It only lasts 60 years, 70 years, 80 years. Then you die or they die. Then the body is burnt, the body is buried. But our relationship with the Supreme Person, Krishna, is eternal. Lord Ram. Ram is the expansion of Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, and shortly is Nrsingadev's appearance. Nrsingadev is also an expansion of Krishna. So he's worshipable and he's God, Lakshmi Nrsinga. So please chant Krishna's holy name every day. You have the chanting beads. Associate with devotees of the Lord. Human beings are gregarious, which means we're social. We like to socialize. It's a very rare human being who wants to be by themselves. There are some human beings, they just want to be by themselves in their own room. They're severe introverts. But generally, human beings are social, especially in the Indian community, isn't it? Very social. The marriages, and this ceremony and that, and social. So associate with devotees. And we have these temples, Phoenix and Chatsworth, and there's Nama Hatta here. And learn more about Krishna consciousness. And this will, your mind will become satisfied, you'll become more happy. Spiritual happiness. We're not talking about material happiness. Spiritual happiness. If material objects gave us happiness, that would mean the richest people would be the happiest. But you must know rich people. And we see on the news media rich people. The obvious one who springs to mind is Donald Trump. I mean, is he happy? Are these rich people really that happy? They're worried about who's going to steal their money. Either they're worried about we can't make enough money, or once we've made it, someone is going to steal it. So spiritual happiness is different. It's coming from relationship with God. So please chant Krishna's holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much. And we have some questions. I am new to Krishna consciousness. I have noticed that you all, Indian, you all don't do the normal prayers as we Hindus normally follow. Why is this? And what is the difference? So the word Hindu is not in the Vedic scriptures. We have the Hatta Veda and the Rig Veda and the Sama Veda and the Yoga Veda. We have the 18 Puranas, we have the Mahabharata, we have the Ramayana. Millions and millions of verses. The word Hindu is not there. It's a name given to people that lived on the northeast, south side of the Sindhu River. The north side being Afghanistan Afghanistan. So it was a name given, because previously Pakistan was also part of India. So it's a man-made name, some couple hundred years old, 1,000 years old Hindu. So the Vedic culture, Hindu culture is the nearest thing to the Vedic culture. We're following the Vedic culture. So Hinduism would be the nearest thing, where they teach respect the cow and don't eat the cow, and respect the demigods like Lord Shiva, and build temples, and you have the deities. So Hinduism is good, and it's the nearest thing to the Vedic culture. But it's also been a little compromised and a little watered down, where they have different mantras. One that springs to mind is the Hinduism. Service to man is service to God. But we don't agree. Service to man is not service to God. And we give the example, you have a tree. Now you want to water the tree. So do you water each branch, each leaf, or each twig? Or do you water the root? Obviously you water the root, because it's the cause of the tree. So service to God is different to service to man. Service to man meaning you feed people, build hostels, build schools, etc. This is activity in the mode of goodness. It's called altruistic, philanthropic, and it's nice. And every religion promotes building hospitals and schools and doing these types of things. But it's not spiritual life. Spiritual life is direct worship of God or Krishna. But that's not to minimize philanthropic work. It's also appreciated, philanthropic work, like Mr. R.K. Khan's. So he gave that donation for the hospital. Mr. M.L. Sultan, he gave that donation for education. But real education means to understand God. So here's another question. Please, could you explain the significance of Akshaya, Kritya? So what's Akshaya Krita? Your question.
No.
Do you know what it is?
It's the third day after some phase of the moon.
Oh.
It's a very auspicious day.
So in Vedic culture, there's many types of knowledge. Military warfare, politics is also described, diplomacy. Maharaj Yudhisthira was a politician, but he ruled the world. But another part of the Vedic knowledge is astronomy. And it's very scientific, very logical. You've got to be quite smart to understand it. And it deals with the movements of the stars and also the movement of the moon. For example, in the Vedic scriptures, an eclipse means inauspicious. It's inauspicious. And the example is you hear a police siren. What's that mean? Trouble. Trouble, trouble. Trouble, trouble, boil and bubble. Cauldron burning, something or other. So you hear the siren, you know something not good. So this is the eclipse, when the moon is eclipsed. Apparently it's eclipsed by Rahu, and Rahu is a demoniac element. And yet thousands and millions of people, they rush and they get their binoculars and they look at the eclipse and they have their parties on the beach. But according to the Vedas, it's inauspicious. When you have an eclipse, you know what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to take bath in the Ganges and the Jamuna and chant the name of God. That's what you're supposed to do to counter the evil effects. So Akshaya, something like that. I'm not so learned in astronomy, astrology. It's a subsection of the Vedic teachings. But there are many devotees who are quite expert in this, and they figure out from when you're born, the constellation, the movement of the planets, and then they make different predictions about you. So the next three questions I can deduce with my intelligence, all written by the same person, because the handwriting is the same. Hare Krishna, please help me by providing guidance on how I must do the basics of chanting Maha Mantra. What should I think of while chanting? Must I keep an image of Krishna in my mind? How do I master the basics? Yes, if you can think of the Lord in your mind, we have what is the word deity. So a deity or a murti can be made out of wood, can be made out of metal, can be made out of sand or clay. It can be two-dimensional, like just a picture, but also manasa in the mind. So if you're able, if you're that advanced, you have to be a little bit advanced now, to think of a bona fide form of God, Jagannath, Nrsimhadev, Radha and Krishna, while you're chanting. Very good, extremely good. But that's not easy. And we have to be honest. Most of us can't even do that. But if you can, that's very good. This means you're going forward and you have some real taste. Second question. His Grace, Prabhupada in the Gita, says, if I have a material desire, I must pray to Krishna directly, although it is not pure devotional service. I have surrendered to Krishna, but also asked for his help with two material desires. Will Krishna help, or should I pray to demigods? No, we always pray to Krishna, or one of his expansions, Lord Ram, Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, Nrsimhadev. Now we offer respect to the demigods. Every day in the afternoon, I go out into the garden, and hopefully the sun is shining, and I offer my respect to Vivaswan, and then Vayu, and Agni, then Surya, then Yamaraj, then Chandra. Then the chief guru of all the demigods, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then Lord Brahma, he's one of our Sampradaya Acharyas, and then Lord Shiva, and then Parvati, and then Ganapati. There's a whole list of about 30, and I offer my respects to them all and pray they can help me in my devotion to Krishna. So if you have material desires, you can ask Krishna. Now Krishna or Ram, they may do one of two things. And what are those one of two things? They may reward you and give you what you want. Prabhupada has written this in the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 7, text 18. See how good my memory is. I don't think it's very good, but anyhow, let me just read this because it's very powerful indeed. The Sanskrit, Udara Sava Evati, chapter 19. Udara Sava Evati, chapter 18. The Lord says that all people are magnanimous because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma. So you approach Krishna for any purpose, you're a Mahatma. In other words, you're a politician and you want votes. You're looking for a good wife. You're looking for a good husband, rich husband, who has lots of properties in Mshlanga and Belito Bay and has a Porsche, if not a Ferrari. That's the husband I want. My dear Lord, Krishna, Hare Krishna, please give me such a handsome husband. So according to this, anyone who comes for any purpose is a great soul. Prabhupada writes, the devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service, that means something material, are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit, good husband, Bollywood wife, and when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. So, material desires. So Krishna can give you that material desire. He can fill your desire, and you get a nice husband, or the children, or promotion at work, or win the lotto number. Or he can do another thing. And what's the other thing? Take away the material desire, and suddenly you're not really interested in the Bollywood wife and that handsome husband. Because how long are they going to be handsome? A few years. How long is the Bollywood wife going to be Bollywood? So Krishna can also take away the desire. So which do you think is superior? The second one. Because you want the good wife or the promotion at work or the car. And then when Krishna gives that, then you want something else. No, I'm not interested in Shlanga. No, Belito now, Belito. And I don't want a house with 3 garages. Now my house has to have 4 garages. Although I only have 2 cars, 4 garages. With a plasma TV in every room, including the bathroom, just in case. So these material desires, they just go on and on and on. So Krishna, he can take away the material desire, and it doesn't bother you so much. So that's superior. But even if you have the material desire, no harm. Chant Krishna's holy name. And then the last question, do only pure devotees go straight to Goloka when they die? Srila Prabhupada says we must prepare for death because it is a glorious moment. If I am fortunate to think of Krishna at my time of death, but not the purest devotee, will I go to the spiritual planets? If you think of God, Krishna, or you think of his pure devotees, like Hanuman, Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Parampara, it's the same thing. There's no difference. And if you think of the Lord, yam yam papi smar bhavam janti kalevram. If you think of the Lord at the time of death, then you're promoted to the spiritual world. So therefore it's recommended you practice. You practice when you're younger. Some people say, well, death. Well, I've still got, 40 years, 30 years, 35 years. Don't have to worry. But actually death can come at any time. You may leave your body in the sleep. Road collision, 40 people every day South Africa. In America, it's 100 every day, road collision. Throughout the world, it's 3,500 every day, road collision. So you don't want a road collision, and usually it's not your fault. Someone else goes into you. So death can come at any time at all. And I can finish by giving you a practical example. Our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, this picture there, he came to South Africa in 1975. And then he went to Mauritius. So he was supposed to meet the Prime Minister, but some other he didn't. So the Prime Minister, he felt bad, and he sent his car with a chauffeur to drive Prabhupada around Mauritius. Although it's not a big place, you can see a lot of sugarcane. So this chauffeur came, and of course he was driving a Citroën, because French implements. So they're driving in the Citroën, and Prabhupada is in the back seat, and there's a collision. Another car goes into them. So Prabhupada, he wasn't seriously hurt, a few scratches, but the car was a write-off. The car was finished. And Prabhupada said, we were driving around peacefully, then all of a sudden, crash. So it can happen to a pure devotee. Prabhupada is the pure devotee. Now we're a little lower down. We're mixed devotees. So it can happen to us also. So we have to be ready to chant the names of God. Think of the Lord. So thank you very much for coming this evening. Please try to chant Krishna's name. And I pray that the Lord, Sita Ram, Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Lord Nrsimhadev can bestow his mercy on all of you, your family members. You receive the protection of the Lord, and you increase your faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Go. So, are there any other questions you'd like to ask, or any points you'd like to make? Yes.
If it's superior for Krishna to remove desires rather than fulfill them, then why does he sometimes fulfill them?
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. I was just wondering, why is it that Krishna sometimes
Fulfill a material desire.
is superior to remove?
It depends how much you want it, and how fortunate you are, and whether you're the subject of mercy. So sometimes you may be insisting, and you may be too pushy. You know, like the mother-in-law, like too pushy. So Krishna says, all right. But then you may be a little bit more advanced. And also you may be the subject of kripa. Kripa means mercy. Then Krishna says, all right, I'm going to reduce that material desire. So it depends on the situation, because God is a person and you're also a person. So it's not, doesn't always, it depends on the situation.
Thank you very much. I was also wondering, you mentioned that all sound vibration has an effect on our consciousness. Although we may try to surround ourselves with kirtan and spiritual sound vibration, we still have to face outside other sound vibrations. So how do we avoid that affecting our consciousness?
You can't really. I'm sitting in my garden and I'm chanting, and the next door neighbor has 5 dogs, if not 6. Previously, some of the devotees who work for the police went and knocked on the door and said, this is illegal. You can't do this. Too many dogs. So it used to bother me, the yapping of the dogs, especially when the monkeys come, the monkeys, the dogs bark at the monkey. So now I sit in the garden and it doesn't bother me. The dogs bark, it just doesn't bother me. So Krishna's been very kind. Now the dogs don't bother me. So you can't stop these sounds. And I'll give you another example now, a nice example. when Prabhupada came to Durban, we didn't have a temple. So we had a house in Westville, more or less opposite Virgin Active in Westville, on that road. So it was Devonshire Road. And we stayed in this house, single-story house. It belonged to Mr. V.N. Nayak, who was a wealthy businessman and also built the school, I think, for blind people. And so he was a very pious man. And so we stayed in this house, and Prabhupada had a room. And Prabhupada would get up early in the morning, 1:30, and start translating. That's what he always did. He translated from the Sanskrit into English, Srimad Bhagavatam. So there was a window, and the window was rattling, and it disturbed Prabhupada. So there's an example. The window rattling, the dog barking. So in order to stop the window rattling, the temple president called for me. Because I was like your go-to man when Prabhupada came. I had that great fortune of being the practical one amongst us, So I rushed into the room and I quickly diagnosed the situation. Prabhupada, curtain, window, rattling. Krishna gave me intelligence, blue tack. So then I got the plasticine, the blue tack. I stuck it on the window. No more rattling. At least I performed some service for my Guru Maharaj. Then, a few days later, the bulb blows. The bulb hangs out the ceiling, so it's dark. So who do they call for? The go-to man. So I put on my outfit, Superman outfit, blue lantern, green lantern, and I rush in like the Flash, and I simulate the whole situation. Prabhupada, light, bulb, switch, blown. What should we do? So I thought, yes, we put in a new bulb. Smart. So I got the steps, climbed up the steps in the middle of the room. Prabhupada was looking at me like this, like I'm going to fall off. He's chanting and looking at me like, And I changed the bulb, offer my obeisances, and I leave. So twice I did that type of service. And as a result, I'm still here. Some 50 years later, I'm still here to tell you the story. Haribol. Another question. Yes.
You mentioned, somebody mentioned Akshay Trita, it wasn't me. But I just wanted to take this opportunity, first of all, to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, for the departed sister of Randall. Randall Prabhu comes from Newlands, his good mother and his family, and many little children. For about 3 to 4 years I've been in Durban. We've been in contact with them. I didn't know that Randall's step-grandfather was actually a Hare Krishna.
Oh.
So when I said Hari Bol, they understood that. But more importantly for me, whenever I've listened to you, Guru Maharaj, whatever's in my mind or in my heart, you will answer that. I haven't written anything about it today, but I'd like to pay my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, because today is the anniversary of something quite significant in my life. And the 10th of May 2019, true, that's when you initiated me to Guru Maharaj. when I had taken 2 gunshots. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you very much that at that moment I was chanting the name Krishna, shouting out to Srila Prabhupada as best I could. But Krishna didn't appear at that moment. Except my daughter appeared because her name is Krishna Karuna. So always name your children after Krishna. That's all I have to say, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Thank you very much.